let's just hop in. So a little bit about me. My name is Brittany. I was a wedding photographer for 12 years alongside my husband. We photographed about 15 to 20 weddings a year, along with engagements, families, events for small businesses, all of that good stuff. I would say I edited about 30,000 images per year. And I pivoted in 2023 to more of a researching, reviewing, and reporting on the usability of photography-related products and applications, which is where my path crossed with Neurapix, the company that we'll be talking about today. I also have a very cute and vocal dog, Pony, who hopefully will not make a vocal appearance today. So this webinar is for every photographer who uses Lightroom Classic, to answer that question earlier. For editing, you want to reduce your editing time if you feel drained from repetitive tasks and if you want to save on outsourcing costs. And honestly, reducing time and saving on money is all this slide needs to say for me to be a go for it. So for my process, before using AI, I would spend about 15 plus hours on my wedding workflow. I would spend about 8 hours on my session workflow because I would have those sessions kind of overlapping. So there was a lot of work coming in, but it was kind of slow to go out. It would take me about 4 weeks to deliver a wedding gallery, which ultimately ended up being 0 days for me time during the busy season, of course. And because of that 0 me time during the busy season, which for where I'm located at in Maryland, that usually means March through November, which is kind of a lot of time. I spent most of my days at the computer, which ended up resulting in a lack of motivation for me, which if you know me, that would be very out of character. I would find any excuse to not start working on a session. I would feel stressed and really irritable. My shoulders kind of started getting incredibly tense. I suffered from burnout. I stopped writing blogs, updating my socials. I stopped marketing myself completely. And I also fell behind on my TV shows, which also, if you knew me, that's very out of character. I'm a big TV watcher, so that one really stung a lot. So moving on, I created, because I was delivering so many images, I think it's important that we create some sort of time value associated with editing. This is very subjective, and it's going to be a very unique value to every person. So do not take mine and think that that's what yours has to be. Some of the things I took in consideration were things like my education level, my years of experience, the monthly cost of the programs I used specifically for editing. And through measuring those factors, I came out to $95 per hour, which for 15 hours of editing a single wedding event ended up being $1,425 per job. So yeah, it ends up being a lot of money. And I feel like it's something that we can't really accurately factor into our collections because sometimes we don't want to price ourselves out of a market. So how do we save time in order to not spread ourselves so thin and stifle our creativity? We come up with some different solutions. So because of the amount of time I was spending at my my computer, I did feel stifled creatively, which led to me exploring some different options. I would apply my preset at import in Lightroom, which got me 30% of the way there, but it was not a complete solution at all. And then I also hired an editor. I outsourced to a company, and that saved me on editing time, but it was costly, really inconsistent, and it took about 10 days to get the edited images back, which if I'm trying to save time, that really adds to my delivery time there. But the solution is editing faster. So you can still over deliver if you're editing quicker. I'll say that. So I also calculated my cost for my editor because that was a big thing that ended up being a bit of a halting point for me. So I ended up finding some solutions that worked, but those solutions ultimately ended up costing me money as well, of course. So the editor that I ended up using, I had to use a few to find the correct one. They were 24 cents per image, and I sent about 1,000 images, I would say, little under, little over sometimes, which ended up being about $240 for a single event. So the outsourcing of about 7 weddings that I had sent to them over the course of 6 months cost me $2,673.60. So while the time savings was sort of there, and the cost savings was still there, I ended up still spending a decent chunk of money. So my career catalyst, even with an outside editor, I spent close to 75% of my time working at my desk because my editor still could not get my exact vibe. So while it wasn't the sole reason for my career shift, editing was a significant factor in transitioning to testing products that have the potential to make a photographer's life easier. That's what I wanted to focus on way more of. Which is where, again, Neurapix entered into the game with their smart preset plugin for Lightroom Classic. Their system, honestly, it has revolutionized how I think about Lightroom presets in a lot of ways, especially for editing. So what is a smart preset? It is AI powered. An AI engine analyzes each image and adjusts settings individually, simulating your expert touch. It does capture your vibe very well. It's adaptable. The smart preset learns and adapts to your personal editing style. It makes each output uniquely yours. It is efficient. It automates a lot of manual adjustments that typical standard presets do not really touch or get into. So it speeds up your workflow even more. It is very user-friendly. It is designed for ease of setup and use. It integrates seamlessly into Lightroom Classic, and it has a great user experience, honestly. And it is highly effective. The smart preset finalizes about 90% of image processing, and I'm not lying. We're going to see it in action in just a little bit. So just to start off, first things first, to create my smart preset, I uploaded about 1,000 edited images, pre-edited, from a single event to Neurapix. It's ideal if you do a single event. That way they can see the change in lighting conditions, everything that varies, start to finish kind of days. That's not a requirement, but you just want something that is a single event or a single session that can really kick off the AI. Because I did that, I used their more involved processing. They have 2 different types of processing, a kickstart, which you can upload 20 images to, and then the more advanced one, which is 500. So they do have some flexibility in there for those who may not have all of the images all in one place. It took about 2 hours for my smart preset to be created. And after that, I could start running my smart preset, which is a very easy process and one we'll get to in just a second. But first, I have some folders here that I'll be running through. I have my raws. I have my standard preset, which I will just apply now. You can see my great naming conventions. So that's just my standard preset applied. You can see it doesn't really help with images that are dark. And then we have what we will apply to our smart preset. But first, I want to go through and edit some of these images that I applied with my normal standard preset. So I have some already flagged. I'll just run through all of the images really quick so you can see that they vary in lighting conditions and style. Here we go. Gotta give my Lightroom time to catch up too. My Lightroom is a little slow. But yeah, you can just see it varies. There's different shooting conditions. This wedding that I am editing with you all today was on a Maryland summer day. So very sunny, very hot. As you can see, there was not a cloud in the sky. I think we were just all living for that reception space and sunset. But yeah. And you can see I have just, a handful of images just to take us through here. And I do have some already selected that I will just edit really quickly in what my typical editing process is. So normally I would crop everything, take down the white balance. I'm sorry, I really got to get even with my computer in order to see. Just kind of mess around really quickly. Obviously, I would take this guy way up. And he's a little bit green, so I'd add a little bit magenta to him. Again, my smart preset my standard preset takes care of a good portion of what I would edit. It's just all about, I still have to go in and mess with settings. I still have to go in, I have to dehaze, I have to take up the contrast sometimes, just to get it to a point where it is actually something that I would be happy to deliver. It's a little too magenta. There we go. And then indoor shots too. I mean, with one preset, I don't know if anybody can hear my dog huffing, but he is getting a little antsy. There we go. But indoor interior shots, that standard preset I'm using for everything. So I'm using for indoor, outdoor, all of dark, light, everything. It's just blanket applying. It's not really learning. And then even with outsourcing, I would still edit a good portion of the images. So I would edit about 100 images for the editor to take a look at just from the different lighting conditions, which still took a lot of time for me to do. And it also would sometimes result in the editor still not getting my vibe completely, which is totally fine. They're their own individual person. They don't have to abide by what I would be doing. But they would sometimes take liberties. Make that a little bit straighter, a little bit more in the center. There we go. So those are the core images I wanted to show, just how I edit, just really quickly running through. They're not perfect, but it'll give us a good jumping off point for what we're going to see the smart preset do. So for the smart preset, to run it, this is where that user friendliness comes in. We're going to highlight all of our images in library view. We're going to come up to the library dropdown in Lightroom Classic. We're going to go down to plugin and extras, and then we're going to hit edit photos. From here, we're going to name our project. So this is just test. I have my preset here, but Neurapix also gives a few free setup smart presets, which is really great. But again, it's super easy to create your own. So I'm just going to stick with my Golden Glow by Britney Clause. I'm not going to use the masking, but Neurapix does have the capability to do the smart AI masking, which is great. And I am going to crop and rotate my images, and we'll hit start editing. Oh, and then I do have a timer, so I'm starting that now. So I really like timing things when I'm testing them. I just like figuring out how fast something is. And we can see that as the smart preset starts running, as it gets to a point that that it has processed the images, the contact sheet will change, and we can go in and start editing these images. I'm not going to, just because I want to make sure I'm able to show you guys, or show you all, how this updates very quickly and how it runs very quickly. and also my brain can only handle so much. So I'm watching the timer, watching the processing bar, watching the images at the same time. So I'm clocked out. I mean, but already we can see that image of the groom tying a shoe, how much brighter it made it over what my preset, my standard preset did. These images of the bride, they pop them up really bright, nice. And you can see the cropping working, the straightening working, which again, that takes a good amount of time to go in, and it's tedious to really crop and straighten. I was helping my friend at a conference just earlier last month, and my job, she would photograph, and because of the nature of the shooting conditions that she was in, running room to room to capture the speakers, there wasn't a whole lot of time for her to stop and just make sure everything was nicely lined up and everything was straight and perfect. So my job, when she would offload her images, would be to go through and straighten and crop it. And that was my whole day. That was about 8 hours. Not that it wasn't fun. I was with one of my best friends photographing a conference, so that was fun. But straightening and cropping, not fun. Yeah, and everyone, you can see I did not touch these at all. These are all just my Neurapix Smart preset. And these are almost finished running. There we go. There's the updates. That hazy blue image. I haven't touched this. Everyone can see I haven't touched it. And we are almost finished running the 110 photos. Just waiting for those last few. Let's see. It's almost there. There we go. So that was about, my timer says 3:55, but I stopped it just like a second late. So it took about 3 minutes and 54 seconds to run the Smart preset on 110 images. And we can see that, I mean, I would not have to touch these reception photos. I feel very happy with how these reception photos look, that I would not need to go in and touch those, which saves me a ton of time, honestly. So I did mark off the images that I edited in my preset, and I also marked them off in the Smart preset, but we will just be comparing all of the images. So we can see yellow is our standard preset applied. Green is going to be the Smart preset. So I'm just going to kind of see if we can't blow these up a little bit more. No, it's going to be that kind of way. So we're going to do 4 images in a line. So yeah, just going through, you can see how for things like what I edited versus what the Smart preset did. Yeah, like it's pretty spot on. It's a little bit warmer, but honestly, I don't hate it. So if I were to just be delivering this image, this would be perfectly fine. I would send this off. The biggest one was the groom. So this is the one that I edited, the yellow. So yellow, mine, this is the smart preset. And again, it cropped it, it zoomed in. We can see that there is, this is the smart preset. You can see that it applied the crop to it already, which is fantastic. It adjusted all of the settings. And this is mine. So my settings with what I had selected versus what the smart preset did. I would say it's a little bit still warm, but it's not a big deal to just go in and kind of only have that one slider to worry about. Let me see, where's our other one? Oh, the bride. There we go. The bride in the mirror, super dark, and this is what the smart preset just does for us. So it goes a little bit more than just what than what our standard preset would do. It kind of learns what we like and adapts to that.